better make sure the video's running. Hold on. Got to get this video running so that Jeff can watch it later. Yeah.
Climate's really changing up north.
So I'm just going to do a little recap. Stanley, can you get the lights, please? No, I don't want to edit my image. Thank you. With AI. Where the house is. So you see the little yellow house on the property there. That's generally where the house is. This is for those of you who haven't been here before, this is I guess you could call it a vacation spot for my brother. And just a real quick 3D of the design drawings. Whoops, come on.
Did you do the design?
I did the design, yes.
How much time did you spend with him talking about before he came up with
Well, it wasn't just with him. It was with him and his wife. I will say this as an architect and a husband. No man should ever deign to design the home without the wife's input equally as part of the process.
Smart man, shut up, Glenn.
Good idea. I disagree.
Okay, and I expected that, Glenn. Thank you.
Equally?
He equally disagrees.
You just get a room if you're the man.
Yeah, and that's that. And I think I've talked about this before. We have this disagreement. What's the front? What's the back? I call this the front door or the entry door. My sister-in-law calls it the back door. And I think last time I showed you some of these pictures, which the garage underway and some other things. So I don't want to belabor that too much because we were going to jump into new pictures. So last time we showed the metal roofing being delivered. This is the metal roofing being put in place. So you can see the wrap or the fabric or the house wrap on the roof of the building, and then the metal panels and the clips that hold the metal panels in place. So basically you start at one end and you work your way across the roof, and the panels kind of hinge and clip together, and then you screw these clips down, and then you snap the next panel on and screw the clips down. So this is the process of that starting. Neither my brother or I are roofers. We've never done this before. My brother's brother-in-law is jack of all trades builder, so he had done some of it before, so we drug him along. And this is the process of the roof starting to go on the actual house.
Does it actually snap in there, John, or is it just placed?
Yes, it's a very positive connection. The way the roofing panels you can see here were made by A.B. Martin, which is in Ephrata. So it's a local company. It's Kynar painted steel. So it's a steel roof, but it has like a 50-year paint finish on it. So, and they run it through a rolling machine that makes the two edges, and the edges have little striations in them so that when you snap one down over the other, it's positively locked together.
And this type of roof is easier than putting on the other kind? Is it cheaper?
No, it's more expensive, but in the woods, we didn't want a shingle roof that's going to hold leaves and hold dirt and hold sticks. The idea here with a standing seam metal roof is that that stuff just kind of blows off the roof. That and it's probably more like a 75-year roof versus shingles, which you're lucky if you get 35 or 40 out of. So yeah, it's a more expensive roof, but it will last longer. And from the environmental conditions that it's in, we wanted that roof to be able to shed leaves and not build that up on the roof. This material was actually made in Newville. A.B. Martin has another plant in Newville, PA. They made the material in Newville and transported it from there. So you can see some of the detail work that has to go in around the, remember, I think we talked about the triangular windows and how we had to frame the opening and then measure the opening and then send that measurement to the window company before they would make the window. So all the other windows are in, but the triangular windows, and there's a piece of plywood to fill the hole. But you see all the flashing and edge trim work that has to happen for that roof to go around. The nice thing about the A.B. Martin, this is called A.B. seam. The nice thing about that system is they make all the pieces and parts that you need to do the flashing, to do terminations, to do all that stuff. So you buy the whole roof as a package, which includes all the trim and all the fasteners and all the caulk and everything. It all comes in one big package. But we had to send them dimensions. So after the roof was framed, we had to go out there and measure everything, send all those dimensions to A.B. Martin, and they put the whole package together for us. And there you can see where it comes together at the top. So there's a ridge vent that goes on there. So after we had the panels up, we came back with a saw, and I didn't show a picture of it here, but then we cut out the sheathing between the two sides of the roof so that when the ridge vent goes on top of that, you have air passing up through, which you want. You want your roof to be ventilated. You don't want to capture any moisture in the roof. And later in this slideshow, we'll talk about how we insulated the roof so that air could move or flow under the underside of the roof and then out through the ridge vent. What's that? A metal roof like this, yeah, you're not going to, a shingle roof in a 125, 130 mile an hour wind, the shingles can rip off. This is not coming off. The whole roof would come off before the roofing would come off. And where this is situated in the part of the world that it's in and how it's situated in the woods, it's never going to see that kind of wind. And there's some more of the chimney as we're getting ready for the roof here, but there's some more of the chimney work going on. And that's what a whole side looks like. Once that stuff is on, we were very careful. We had old pieces of carpet up there so that you could brush your shoes off before you stepped onto the metal, because we didn't want to mark it up, and you didn't want to go on it with kind of dirty shoes because you didn't want to get marks on it. And if you went on it when it was damp, you could pretty easily wind up going off the edge. So it was a little tricky once it got on. And of course, we followed all the OSHA requirements. Yep, exactly. So this picture, again, some of these are a little out of sequence, but you get the idea. Remember the garage we were talking about last time? I'm standing on the roof of the garage, and we'll show you some pictures of the garage kind of massed out and finished, looking back across to the house, and so you get some sense of the kind of the roof shape and size of the house. That's my car hiding there, and get a sense of how they relate to each other. The roof over the garage has got a much flatter slope. That actually has a rubber membrane on. This roof the garage roof, we didn't want to spend the same amount of money for standing seam. That's just got a regular rubber membrane. And of course, now that the garage is done, you've got to park the four-wheelers somewhere. And since the four-wheelers have joined the garage, so has a side-by-side. So when you go out there, there's plenty of vehicles to move. It's 135 acres, and there's logging roads and hunting trails all over the place. So you've got ample capability of getting around the property quickly. And it was snowing when I took this picture. I don't know if you can see the little lines of snow. And there it is. The garage now, we'll get to pictures of the garage finished. The garage has stone on it and siding on it now, so it looks like it belongs to the house. Yeah. It's never gonna have a vehicle park. I mean, it's always gonna have toys and tools parked in it. Yeah.
Probably a dumb question, but why are there cinder blocks that are like darker on the front?
Could be a number of things. It could be a different lot that came out of the plant. It could be that they got wetter during a rainstorm than others did, and they're just taking their time drying out. It could be a number of reasons. My guess, Ken, is that they were a different lot when it came through the plant.
And you're gonna paint that?
No, that's actually getting metal siding on it. So now we're back inside the house because we're starting to frame the interior. So remember, there's big, giant open space, and it's basically a big rectangle. What the far end where the stairs are is the master bedroom. So on the left, you see the master bedroom, and then right behind it's the walk-in closet, and behind that is the master bath. And so you're beginning to see the framing work, which we all did. We did ourselves. We did all that framing, and then you can see some of the insulation, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But some of the insulation in the roof over the master bedroom side. We had to insulate the entire roof before we could really frame any walls, and I'll explain why when we get there. And that's standing inside the master bedroom, looking back towards the main part of the house. We see the opening for the stairs. And here we are starting to frame out the guest bedrooms at the opposite end. It's funny to watch this happen if you've ever been involved in construction, because you start by laying stuff out on the floor, and you begin to see where the walls are going to go, and the next thing you know, you're used to just walking wherever you want to walk, and after a while you go, I can't walk that way because I can't fit my fat body through those studs anymore, so I have to actually physically walk in the corridors. Now this is the one I want to, let's see if I can blow that up a little bit. There. So because it's a cathedral ceiling, you want to insulate, but at the same time, you don't want to trap air, because if you trap air, now you've got a place where moisture can happen, and if moisture can happen, then mold can happen. So you want to really be careful that doesn't happen. So the way we insulated this is on top of the roof, we put a house wrap down right on top of the joists before we put any roof deck down, and then we put 2x4s on top of the joists, and then put the roof deck down. So you had this 1.5 inch airspace between the roof deck and where the insulation was going to be, so that air can flow up through there and out through the ridge vent, so you're not trapping moisture anywhere. We did something very similar on the underside. We put plastic on the underside of the roof joist, and then put 2x4s there, and then put the drywall in there, so there's airspace between. So the insulation lives in ventilated airspace both above and below where it exists. So you don't have the opportunity to create a moist environment inside your insulation cavity. Without getting too far into the technical weeds, you never want your dew point to fall. And does everybody know what dew point is? Dew point is the temperature and humidity. When temperature and humidity come together and the moisture comes out of the air and forms condensation, that's called the dew point. Every wall, every assembly in a building has a dew point, meaning there's a spot within that assembly where, when the air and humidity components are correct, condensation will form. So you're always trying to manage that as an architect and as a contractor. And what you want to do is manage that so that dew point occurs outside of your insulation. Because if it happens within the insulation and the insulation gets wet, two things happen. One, it doesn't insulate anymore because it's wet. And two, you get mold forming. So you're always trying to manage that process. So that was the point of having airflow above the insulation and airflow below the insulation, and having the insulation encapsulated in plastic so that insulation stays dry. And if any dew point happens, it's going to happen in that airspace, and then it can drain out. So here you see we had the plastic on the underside, and we're putting up the 2x4s that we will attach the drywall to. Well, the roof took us a while. So that one picture where you saw the snow flying, that was when we first started the roofing. This is late spring of 23. And you can see we're working to get the roof across. You see the big bundles of roofing on the left-hand side, and then the rest of the roof happening. It took us a long time to get the roof done because we're not roofers. And when you work on it a weekend here and a weekend there, it doesn't all happen right away.
So the long part is in two pieces?
The long part is in two pieces.
Which is why.
Oh no, yeah, that center section, Marty. That's a different roof. That's like a porch roof that pops up and shoots out. So every one of those panels, these panels here, these longer panels, they're one piece. So we got all the panels are one piece. There's none of the panels have any seams in them. The longer ones we wound up damaging a couple of those and had to get them replaced. You had to be very, very careful when you picked them up. You didn't wrinkle them or damage them. But the idea with a standing seam metal roof like this, we were another couple of feet, we wouldn't have been able to make one panel. But we were kind of near the threshold for a single panel. And then you'd have to put kind of a lap seam in them so that you'd have, but that's now a point of potential failure. So
within that section where the overhang is, that's in two pieces then?
That's in two pieces, and we'll see another picture that'll show you how that kind of comes together a little bit. But we had to do that because of the change in the roof plane. There was a break there. You can see it a little bit in the corner, in the far corner there of that change. But now we're getting very close to having roof complete. And here's a better shot of it, Marty. You can see how those two roofs come together. And yet you have to, the trick was, okay, we got water coming down this main slope. How do we get it to transition across onto this other slope without it running under a panel? And so there was, the roofing manufacturer had a detail for us, and that's what we went with.
So it goes over there, it doesn't go around?
No, it goes over, yeah. So just think about this, the panel, each panel is going to channel whatever rainfall it catches all the way down to the bottom. It's not going to flow over the sides. So when it gets down here to this porch roof, it just hops up over and then runs off the porch roof.
So those panels, when you look from the ground and you look straight up, they're all in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I guess that was a little tricky.
That was tricky as well, yeah. When there's a couple of spots where it's not quite perfect. So there's a picture with pretty much all of the roofing in place. So you get an idea of what it kind of looks like right now. Thank you. You carry your tools around in 5-gallon buckets.
John, after the last of the pieces of roof were done, how'd you guys get down?
We walk on it. I mean, you walk on it. But when we were going to do a roofing, I mean, you see some of the dirt. Some of this is just dust. And when we would go out there on a Saturday to go up and work, there would be dew on the roof. Well, the first job is, okay, where are we working today? Where are we walking today? Okay, let's get the towels out. Let's try and dry the roof off as best we can where we're going to work. So one, it's safe, and two, we don't get it as mudded up and as dirty. But you can see a little bit of that in the foreground here. Remember in a previous one where I was up there and I was working on what I talked about a cricket. Remember we talking about a cricket, which is the shape you put on the up roof side of a chimney so that the water will go around the chimney. There you can kind of see it a little bit under the paper, but in this next, I think this next one here, now you can see how the trim works around the chimney. There's the cricket. So They gave us a big sheet of metal, and we used a bending brake and some 2x4s and came up with that shape and put that in place. It took a lot of work. That took a whole weekend to try and get that part solved. But now, as the rain falls on that section, that cricket shape makes everything flow around the chimney. So if you ever hear somebody talking in roofing terms about a cricket, that's what they mean. It's a triangular shape that goes on the up roof side, on the upslope side of an obstruction so that water will flow around. Well, we started to frame the basement too. So the basement has a big giant room in the middle, which is kind of like it's going to become a rec room. It's where all the hunting gear is mandated to stay. There's no hunting gear allowed on the main floor, so all the hunting gear has to stay downstairs.
Don't say it.
As a result of the wife being involved.
And you can see the HVAC equipment getting set and some of the piping beginning to happen. So as we finished up the framing, then the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors came in and started running all of their rough ends in the studs. Now you can see, now this is taken from the stairs to the basement looking back towards the guest bedroom, and that's where the kitchen's going to be. But you're beginning to now get a sense of that central space, because once it's framed out, it's amazing when it gets framed out. You really begin to feel what the plan is going to look like. And then when the drywall hits, now you really are there. But and now you can see the roof is insulated. So how do we get insulation between those two sheets of plastic, you may ask? Well, all of the roof insulation in this house was fiber blown in. So we would start near the midpoint of the roof and make a little slit in the plastic and put the hose up in there. And we rented a blower. In fact, you can see some of the hoses and some of the insulation in bales. There's a big machine outside. You just throw the bales in the machine. The machine grinds it up, loosens it up, blows it up. As soon as that would fill up, we pull the hose out, tape that slit, move farther up the roof, cut another hole, put the hose in, blow it. So that was quite a job. But now that entire sheet of plastic is packed full of insulation. And you remember the walls are insulated concrete form, so we didn't have to insulate the walls. They were already insulated. And that's looking back at the master bedroom. And you get another sense of the roof. You see all the tape marks over here on the right hand side. Those are all the holes that we cut to insulate that side of the roof.
How did you know your distribution? Like, you have enough?
It was kind of guesswork, Tony. You basically down at the eave, we had blocks put in so that you couldn't blow it. It wouldn't blow out the hole in the bottom. And when you cut that spot halfway down, you would just keep blowing it in until you were full. It doesn't have to be packed tight. It just needs to fill the space. And so you just blow it in until it's full, pull the hose, move on up. We had to make sure all the wiring for junction boxes and lights in the ceiling was in place too before we did any of this. So that was all done as well. 220? No, it's standard 120. And we wanted to make sure all that stuff was done before we finished up framing the walls too. So we wanted to be able to insulate the roof and have a big space to work in. So the roof got insulated before we framed the walls. And we were doing this in July. So it was warm. and you're trying to stay away from all the fiber floating in the air because it's fiberglass fiber. So you'd go home and you would itch for days. That's one of my nephews up there taping the final. And that's it for now. That's part 3. So, Glenn, I'm ready for questions.
What time period is this now?
This is it'll be about a year and a half ago.
Okay. And currently, it's completely done? Or not?
Well, where we are, hunting season has started, so there's not much housework getting done because my brother and his sons are very avid hunters, and they spent most of this summer doing food plots and other things, so not much happened. All the stonework on the outside of the house is done. All the siding on the outside of the house is done. All the flooring is done. All the appliances are in. All the bathrooms are functional. All the doors are hung. There's baseboard and door trim to be done. And there's a few more things outside to finish up. I would anticipate by this time next year, we will be about as close to being done as we would consider done. It's never going to truly be done. There's always going to be something that we're messing around with. The deck is on. The garage is all but pretty much finished. So yeah, it's very livable. I mean, we've gone out and spent multiple weekends, spend the whole weekend, and you don't want he bought Starlink for the place, so you got Wi-Fi while you're there if you need it, and all the bathrooms work and the kitchen works. And
Are you stoning all the driveway areas?
no, actually, that's one of the last things that will happen. The uphill side is going to be terraced to make about 4 or 5 parking spaces, and then we want to build some granite block steps down to a lower flat level next to the entry area. And there's a small deck that's going to be built right off the entry door. So, and the footprint of that deck will be the same footprint of the porch roof above, so that you can stand in the dry on that deck. And we're trying very hard not to make it a house that shoes are in, because it's all hard. That's the other thing. All the hardwood flooring is done. So the idea is you come up on the porch, you kick your shoes off, you put your slippers or your house shoes on, and you go inside the house, and you're not dragging your hiking boots or your hunting boots or anything out through the house.
Is there like a mudroom or something like to do that in?
No, you do that on the porch. You do that on the porch. There is a laundry and a utility space, but that's more to wash towels and sheets. And
Is there an entrance in the basement?
there is entry in the basement. So when they come back from hunting, they usually go in the basement. And the deck is high enough that there's room underneath the deck to hang your kill. So, and they put a place. There's a hydrant on the back side of the garage, so you can dress behind the garage or whatever. My brother's been looking at getting like an industrial refrigerator, so they have a place to store if they need to store. If they're there for longer than a couple of days, with a fresh kill. Yes, Dennis.
How many square feet?
The first floor is 28 by 82. So I never keep the number in my head. So whatever 28 by 82 is.
6296.
28 by 82.
2296.
Yep. That sounds about right. Yeah. So I anticipate that once hunting season is over, my brother and I were just chatting about it yesterday or the day before. When hunting season's done, we'll dive back into some of these final details of wrapping things up. I mean, when it's a cold January or February day or weekend, you can get a lot of trim work done inside if you're not nutsing around outside. So we're hopeful that this winter, early spring season will be a good time to wrap up most of the interior details. We still have a few things to do outside, which we will get to. I would hope that this time next year, we're, like I said, as close to done as we're going to be.
Fireplace works.
Fireplace works. Wood stove works. I think I mentioned last time in June we were out there, and we had a fire every evening in the fireplace on the deck, and it's amazing how dark it gets and how many stars you can see. And it's just a really nice place to sit and chat and listen to music and enjoy the fire and have a nip or two of fine bourbon, which my brother appreciates like I do. So yeah, it's a great spot to be. I get relaxed every time. I can feel myself relaxing when I get off the turnpike on 522 at Fort Littleton and start that 45-minute drive down through McConnellsburg over to the cabin. I can feel my body. I'm getting chills now. I can feel my body just. And it's just a wonderful place to be. And it's been a great project. And what I'd like to do is I'll save part 4 till we get a little closer to the summer, and hopefully it will be just done. Here you can see it.
Is part 5 a field trip?
Well, I'd have to check with my brother. I'm going to try and get my brother here for part 4. But yeah, it's a solid 2-hour drive from here. Well, it's 2 hours door to door. That's nothing.
Can you get a bus up there?
No, you can't get a bus. Unfortunately, I don't think a bus will make the concrete trucks barely make it. I don't know that a bus would make it. Yes, Ralph.
It's a four-season place,
Absolutely.
and I assume somebody is in charge of all the scheduling. And I assume that
Yes.
What are the top 3 functions year-round?
Just family time and relaxing. I think during hunting season, it's obviously a hunting camp. So right now, my brother and his sons and their friends and his father-in-law and his father-in-law's brothers spend a lot of time out there. They all have their own stands marked out, so they'll go out there. Of course, archery right now, and I guess there's a couple of them in the group who qualify for the senior muzzleloader season, and they all like to hunt. My brother was trying to talk me into hunting with him this year, at least during standard rifle. But I'm so busy architecturally, I can't take a weekend and go hunt. I just can't do it.
Extended family?
Family, extended family. I think
For a week or two?
or how
Where's the nearest grocery store?
McConnellsburg. So you drive through McConnellsburg on your way there, and you stop at the Giant in McConnellsburg. It's very convenient, right along 522, about a half hour, 45 minutes from the cabin. There's a Giant, a Tractor Supply. So God help you if you can't find a Tractor Supply. There's a Giant, there's a wine and spirit shop, and there's a Tractor Supply all in one shopping center. So you've got it all. You've got it all right there. And we've had a couple of times when we're working where we ran out of supplies and we needed something that we knew we could only get at Lowe's. Well, the closest Lowe's is Cumberland, Maryland, which is 45 minutes away. So you got to jump in the car and drive down to Cumberland, Maryland, and go to the Lowe's and come back. And there have been times that my brother has called me. I was going to come out he's out there for 3 or 4 days, and I'm coming out on a Saturday morning. I'm usually leaving the house around 5 a.m. And he would text me the night before and say, hey, can you stop at the Home Depot in Carlisle and grab X, Y, and Z? So, that's how we've worked it out. But, yeah, the whole idea is extended family. I know we've talked about having the Yoder Thanksgiving out there at some point. I know my brother and his wife had her extended family out there for Thanksgiving last year. It was enough. I mean, it was for a day. Nobody stayed overnight, but they had enough of the kitchen working that they could do Thanksgiving out there last year. So that's the idea. I mean, it's my brother and his wife's hope and dream that it is an extended Yoder family kind of place to be. Phase 2 is potentially bunk rooms in the basement, so you could keep 20, 25 people in the house without too much difficulty. So, Marty.
You said no buses, but when you build the roads, you got to take into account fire engines and stuff like that?
No. This is a cabin. Let me describe to you the building permit distinction. My brother had to sign an affidavit saying that this is a cabin, meaning this is not my permanent residence. This is not my primary residence. This is a vacation spot. So the building permit was like $30, and there's no building inspections. So it's a cabin. The road that goes back in was an old farm lane that turned into a logging road. So we didn't have to build any roads. The road was already in place. We didn't have to really bust too many trails through the property because part of it had been logged off a little bit. Not clear cut, but selectively logged. So it's, from that perspective, a concrete truck could get there. A fire engine, if it really had to, could probably get there, but I wouldn't take like a bus in there. In fact, a lot of the materials got dropped on the main road, and we had to use a pickup truck and a trailer to haul it back in because they couldn't get there was no way a semi was going to get back there. Yes, Dave?
Got an author for your book?
No. Not yet.
What's the possibility of additional people coming out and saying to you, I'd like that too?
I already have 2 commissions that I'm working on for people who saw this on Facebook and contacted me and said, we want a house. So that was that. I asked my brother, can I put it on Facebook? Quote unquote cabin. No, the commissions I've gotten as kind of exhaust from having this on Facebook are actual primary residences. But that's, I just throw it on Facebook and see what happens, and there you go. So I'm not complaining. I was saying here at one of these tables that I'm 60, and I would like to leave township management after I turn 65. But my plan is to go back to full-time practice of architecture. So I'm working right now. Hob, I'm working on the Gears project. I'm working on a couple of other projects for a contractor over in eastern Lancaster County. I've got a couple of houses that I'm working on, kind of off and on. I'm still messing around with this because every now and then my brother will say, well, look, can you design this or design that? So I get sucked into that. But my goal is that by the time I hit 65, I have enough of a regular practice of architecture going that I can say goodbye to municipal management and start doing architecture full time again. So I might have to change my classification from local government to architecture. Maybe I change it now.
We'll still complain to you.
I'm sure you will. I will always probably be involved with the township in some way, either volunteering to be on a board or a commission, even after I'm gone, because I've been doing that I've been doing it now for over 14 years, and I can't imagine not being involved in some way. But I'm ready. This is confession time. I'm ready not to deal with people.
Imagine that.
The cry and the kind of the standard retort in the office now after a phone call, after a particularly weird or distressing phone call is, ugh, people, because it's what you deal with. So I don't like to admit I thought I was pretty easygoing, but as I've done this now for almost 7 years, it's harder and harder to be easygoing when you're dealing with people who won't listen. When you've had the same phone conversation 3 times and made the same response 5 times within each of those conversations, and you still get the same phone conversation, it's a little much. So, any other questions? I enjoy sharing these pictures. The only people who've really been looking at it for the most part are my brother and I, and whoever looks at it on Facebook. But I'm a little behind on Facebook. I have to catch up. I don't know if I explained this in one of my previous talks. My Facebook page got attacked by a township resident who didn't like me, and they posted some nasty stuff on some of my pictures. So I had to take down my architect Facebook page and clean it up. And I haven't gone back in, and I had to block a person. I had to block somebody and block any account made by them. So I'm.
How do you find out what accounts were made by them?
Well, it's a Facebook setting where you say block this person and all their accounts. So I guess Facebook knows. Doesn't matter who. You've got to have you got to have credentials to create an account, and I'm sure Facebook knows. Okay, this person's credentials. They don't get access.
I'm working my way around it.
So.
John, I'll let you practice. You can ring the bell.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, anything else for the good of the order? All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.